I, male, 40, am going through a really rough divorce right now. It's especially tough since my ex-wife Sandra, female, 40, is demanding child support for our son, Jay, male, 1. Obviously, this wouldn't be something I would bat an eye at, but that's where our reason for divorcing comes in. I found out that she had been cheating on me with not one, but several men. This wasn't even new and had been happening for the entire course of our 5-year marriage. Since I was unaware of all this, I assumed Jay was mine and signed his birth certificate, raising him like my own kid. Obviously, once I found out that Sandra was cheating on me, I got a paternity test done and he's not my kid. However, since my name is on the birth certificate and I've been raising the kid for a year, it seems as if I'll end up paying Sandra thousands in child support. She knows how unfair this is, but openly gloats about how she got away with it to her friends, or so I've heard. And that just frustrates me to no end. Once I was suspicious of Sandra, I installed some home security cameras and discovered that she called over a different person every week, sometimes with Jay at home. That's how I initiated this divorce, but it's got me no closer to knowing who Jay's biological father could be. It's already emotional torture for me to know the child I was connected to and raising for a year isn't mine. And I would like to keep a bond with him, but I absolutely do not want to pay a single cent to Sandra. After speaking to my lawyer, he did say that I'm pretty much screwed unless the biological father can come out and prove that Sandra has lied to him as well and basically tried to entrap me. When we were in court and the decree for child support was laid out, I could have sworn that Sandra turned and winked at me. I wanted to contest the ruling, but regardless, it's tough for me to do much as I am technically the legal father. It sucks, but I had almost resigned myself to dealing with it. However, something crazy happened when I got a text message from Sandra's friend asking if we could meet up. This friend of hers, Julia, was always a pretty nice person, and I knew that she had fought with my ex about what she had done. Their friendship was on rocky ground during the divorce, and after meeting her, I found out that she had cut off all ties with Sandra because of her attitude towards the child support. I asked her what she meant by this, and she showed me texts where Sandra was openly talking about how she would use the child support money for shopping and trips, stating that she had a friend who could dress up her spending to look like expenses for Jay. After that, Julia called her out in the group chat with all their friends, but everyone was against her. Their opinion was that Sandra was doing what was best for her and not endangering Jay. And it was my fault for not keeping the relationship alive. I was livid after reading all these messages and knew for a fact that I would fight the court order to pay child support after this. The way I went about that was asking Julia to appear as a character witness for me and talk about the things Sandra said. With that, I should at least be able to reduce the amount of money Sandra is trying to gouge out of me. Julia happily obliged and said that she is fully on my side when it comes to this divorce. I'm going to appeal for a reevaluation of the divorce decree and figure out what I can do. However, I'm worried that I may be TA because of how erratic Sandra's behavior is and how this may affect Jay. I know that I may win and reduce child support, and I also know that I don't have it in me to take custody of Jay and raise him like my own son. But would my ex be able to provide for the kid? It's eating away at me and making me second guess my decision to go ahead with the case. At the same time, the current proposal for child support is an obscene amount that Sandra cooked up by highlighting Jay's expected standards of living. So it would genuinely impact me if I let things go along as they are. What should I do, Reddit? Update 1. Okay, after listening to all of you, I've decided to move ahead with the case. Also, I did think about how I could maybe have shared visitation with Jay. But the thing is, since the affair did not directly affect Jay, it's unlikely that it may change things around for us. However, I do think that Julia's testimony will at least change the way the child support payments are done and also strictly enforce a good check on my ex. I don't want any of the money going into her pocket. Update 2. The appeal is currently ongoing, but a new development has also come up. Julia reached out to me and told me that yet another friend of Sandra's has had a fight with her and has some news that may help me sue for paternity fraud. She knows the likely father of Jay. Apparently, Sandra had spoken with this friend, I don't know their identity, when she was pregnant and admitted that she knew who the father was. The reason she confessed was because this guy worked with this friend and was quite close to her too. This anonymous person has now sent the contact information of this guy to Julia, and she's urging me to go and speak to him. This may honestly be either the best or the worst thing to happen for me. If this guy is sympathetic to me or perhaps has been jilted by Sandra, I could sue her for paternity fraud and take her to the cleaners. This guy, David, seems pretty unperturbed by Sandra's divorce, and it seems like he's not a part of her roster right now. That's a terrible way to put it, but I guess heartbreakers made me funnier. Huh. Anyways, I've texted David and briefly tried to explain everything to him and told him that I don't bear him any ill will. Apparently, he had no idea that Jay could have been his child, and that was a shock to him. He wants to meet up just as bad as me, if only to find out about his son. Update 3. Okay, after meeting David, I've got to say that my ex has to be the most evil person in the world. Apparently, she seduced David for a one-night stand. No wedding ring, of course. And he later found out that she was married through this anonymous friend who put two and two together later. After that, he didn't have the guts to confess to me and apologize for that. He had no idea that Sandra was pregnant, and he didn't maintain contact with her until he found out about the kid. When Jay was born, Sandra assured him that it was not his and openly lied about being on the pill when they had slept together. However, when he and I sat down and discussed the timelines for everything, it became clear that Jay was probably David's child. A paternity test later confirmed this. Obviously, this guy feels horrible that he's missed an entire year from the life of his son and is extremely angry at Sandra for lying to both of us. After speaking to David and getting all this info, I contacted my lawyer, and he said that there is a solid ground to sue Sandra for paternity fraud. So David and I are going to sue Sandra for paternity fraud. She's in for a world of hurt. Update 4. So the new case is ongoing, but there are already a few big wins for us. Firstly, I'm not going to be paying any child support. In fact, Sandra's going to have to pay me for emotional turmoil and damages. When I said I was going to take her to the cleaners, I wasn't joking. Julia's testimony and the evidence that showed my ex knew who the real father was and withheld it really helped turn things in our favor. Furthermore, Sandra is willing to relinquish custody of Jay, and David wants to raise the kid with his current partner. The fact that she's got such little connection with her son leaves me disgusted, but it's nothing more than I'd expect from her. I guess she'll visit him every now and then. David has also kept his door open for me to visit and keep in touch with Jay as his uncle. I just hope that this situation doesn't screw over the kid emotionally as he grows up. It's going to take a lot of maturity and effort to make sure that doesn't happen. But the more I get to know about David, the more it seems like he's a stand-up kind of person. He's been extremely remorseful about the fact that he was part of an affair, even though Sandra had lied to him. This is an odd thing to mention in an update, but I'm also kind of seeing Julia. We're not in a committed relationship yet, but she's an amazing person. And the fact that she was the only person in Sandra's friends group to immediately take an issue with her adultery shows me that she's the polar opposite of my ex. We're taking things slow, but it's nice to be in a more secure relationship. Through her, I also got to find out that every one of Sandra's friends is now leaving her. Although most of them are doing it to save face after the paternity fraud thing came out. Julia isn't really on speaking terms with most of that circle, though. I'm happy Jay finally has parents who care for him, and I'm happy that I found a way out of this mess. My fortunes have really turned out compared to where I was just a little while back, And the friends I made through this post kept me sane too. Thanks, Reddit. NTA, if you're worried for Jay, you can always speak to CPS, but that worry shouldn't be a reason to shell money out to a crazy lying cheater. It's a clear NTA. I'm amazed at the kind of lying and mental gymnastics your ex was doing to continue her terrible lifestyle. Next story. My mom died when I was 4, and my dad remarried when I was 6. I hardly remember my mom, but some stuff about her I still have some memories of. Like, I know I look just like her, and I know she used to sing "You'll Be in My Heart" to me at night when it was bedtime. My stepmom adopted me 7 months after she married my dad. I didn't really want her to, but I was never asked. I was told it was happening, and that was about it. At the time, my dad asked his parents to talk to me about how it wasn't erasing my mom or a bad thing. They tried, but I wasn't happy about it, and I guess when I still wasn't happy after a few years, their feelings changed, and they stopped speaking positively about it. I'm almost 18 now, and I still don't see her as more than my stepmom. I never called her mom. They did push for it, but I never gave in. My dad has made so many shitty decisions over the years. No visiting mom's grave for Mother's Day, can only celebrate stepmom. He also took down all photos of mom from living spaces in the house, and because of that, we have no photos of before I was 7. Since I refused to pretend we were a family when I was little, I only gave in when I realized Dad would keep pushing and punishing me for not being in photos and for not getting with the program. A little while ago, not sure when, my grandparents told my stepmom and dad that she was not my mom and she should stop saying she is. Dad and stepmom were angry about that. She says she's been my mom since I was 6 and she's given everything to me. Dad said that was not how to speak to the mother of their grandchildren. I have 3 half siblings from dad and stepmom. It came up again a couple of weeks ago, only I was there this time. They said she wasn't my real mom, and I agreed with them. My stepmom kicked them out, and when Dad got home, she told him what was said and that I didn't just let them say it, but I agreed with them. Dad told me I should have defended my mom. I told him I always do, and I have always known who my real mom is. I told him just because he decided he could force a new legal mom didn't make her my real one. She asked what she would have to do to be my real mom. I told her to let me decide what she was going to be, not insisting on it and making a big fuss my whole life about how I never call her mom, which is an issue I've had with her since before she married my dad. She told me it was unnatural for kids so young when a parent dies and the other parent remarries to not warm up and naturally start saying mom or dad. I told her they never gave it a chance and that I was a scared kid who desperately didn't want to forget the very brief memories of my mom. She asked if those memories were more important than all the memories with her, and I said yes. Dad told me I need to change my attitude or I'll end up a misogynistic a-hole and I will have crushed an innocent woman. AITA? Opinion 1. NTA, that was a ride. So you're 7 and your dad replaces your mom. He doesn't date other people. He just brings a woman home and says, "This is your mom now." She even adopts you. Most children do not take parent deaths well. They were a primary carer that you naturally put a lot of trust and love in. Then that's severed. And if the kid doesn't know what death is, the worst possible thing you can do as a parent is pretend she's gone and not ask the child. Not going to her grave, putting away all photographs of her and replacing her. Because what does that say to the child? Many things. Your feelings don't matter. People are replaceable. Remembering the dead and grieving is bad. This stuff can cause PTSD. It is serious. The next thought a child will have is asking, are they replaceable? 3 kids in, it's safe to assume those feelings are intense. Of course, you're not going to warm up to her. Unnatural. Your stepmother has no idea what she's talking about. A stepmother is, to a child, the embodiment of why they feel bad. It is dangerous territory. And to avoid resentment, a trusted person must reassure that they are not a replacement. They are not your new mom. And that your relationship is up to you. There won't be one forced on you. What you don't do is sign the adoption papers with zero input from the child. Your father is completely wrong. You won't end up a misogynist. You shouldn't be punished for not being allowed to grieve. You still haven't been allowed that time. 2 years to a child is nothing. Your father has done this to his wife. The stepmother did this to herself, and they're blaming a scared 17-year-old for their mistakes. Your grandparents are right. I cannot stress enough that she could do everything for you since you were born. It is still up to you to decide what you call her. NTA, you remember your mother and you honor her place in your heart. You might have warmed to your stepmom more if she and your dad hadn't pushed it so hard. If the relationship had developed naturally, you might have felt it more, but it didn't. You feel how you feel. You are not misogynistic. You lost your mom at an impressionable age and had a new woman forced on you. Really, the only AH here is your dad. I don't blame your stepmom nearly as much as I blame him. She stepped in, stepped out, and did her best. Yes, she had expectations, but your dad was the one who thought he could shoehorn her into your heart. I feel badly for her, but relationships can never be forced. Next story. I, 19 female, and my friend, 18 female, have applied to the same college to hopefully attend together. This college does admissions on a rolling basis, so I was hurrying to get all of my required documentation. She told me last time we were hanging out that she wanted us to wait until we both got letters to open it together. In my mind, I would have been fine with it, but she hasn't even submitted her application, and it's now been almost a month since I submitted mine. I told her that waiting that long is unfair to me and my family who are waiting since this school is my top school, and that school takes 6 to 10 weeks to make a decision. She downplayed it and said that it would only be me waiting a week or so to open the letter, and that if I opened it without her letter, there would be an argument. Now, almost every time we talk, she keeps telling me to wait. But I told her when I get it, I'm going to open the letter. So I don't know. I've asked my sister and mom about it, and they are on my side, but I still feel like the a-hole. Am I? NTA, this is kind of time-sensitive situation. If you get in, you need to focus on any deadlines, room and board, finances, and so much more. If you don't, you need to worry about taking the next steps, like applying to other options in time. You don't want to sit around on something as important as this. Besides, if it had actually mattered to her the way it does to you, she would have sent in her application already, and you would be getting them around the same time. Unfortunately, it looks like that is no longer an option. Best of luck to you, and fingers crossed. NTA. If she hasn't even submitted her application yet, then clearly this is not as important to her as it is to you. If you put your own feelings and wants aside for her, you will be setting a precedent that will not work out well for you. Imagine you do end up going to school together. Don't turn in your paper yet because I haven't turned in mine. Don't leave for class yet because I'm not ready to go. Don't RSVP for that social event because I haven't received an invitation yet. This school is your number one choice. Don't let anyone stand in your way of getting there and making the most of it. NTA, open that thing. At this point in the year, you can't wait. You have deadlines to meet for the fall. Honestly, though, my son's a senior, and while we did get physical acceptance letters for some schools, every single school either sent an acceptance email or emailed a notice that his application status had been updated. We've had his housing assignment for a month, and the summer orientation dates were getting pretty full. We waited on that because until we knew he got into the marching band, it was still possible he'd change his mind. All that to say, you've got a month at this point until most schools require you to have made a decision and paid your deposit at the least. There's no waiting. Stay tuned for more stories from our girl relationships.